Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to discuss the current affairs of 3rd January 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 7 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see the first article. Title says trade deficit grows to $15 billion in December. So this article mainly focusing on one important topic, that is trade deficit. So this trade deficit, it is very important regarding both the prelims and as well as mains, which comes under economy under GS paper 3. So let us have a detailed discussion. First we are going to see the context and some details regarding the trade deficit, and we are also going to see what are the facts and significance regarding this trade deficit. So context says, contracting for the third straight month, India's exports slipped marginally by 0.8% in the December 2020. So the first important thing here you should remember, there is a decrease in the India's exports. Okay, the first one, it is saying there is a decrease in the India's exports. So India's export decreased by 0.8% in this month, that is in the December 2020. And the next important thing, it is saying that here the trade deficit, it is widened to $15.71 billion due to the rise of imports. So the important thing that you should find here is, it is talking about exports, it is talking about imports. So through this data you can understand the trade deficit which is related to the exports and imports. So this is the context here. So if you see some other details regarding this article, mainly says that first important one is, it is comparing the data of exports of 2019 and the 2020 December. In the 2019 December, the exports recorded about $27.11 million. And if you are comparing the same export data of December 2020, it says that just $26.89 billion. So it is the data which is given according to the Commerce Ministry. So in this way we can say there is a decrease of the exports when we are comparing with the December 2019 with the December 2020. So this is the one of the important data that is given here. And this article also says that shipments in the month of the November, that is increased in some certain sectors like gems, jewelry, engineering and as well as chemicals. But overall India's export decreased by 0.8% and India's imports that increased by 7.6%. So the difference between the India's exports and the India's imports, it is very large, that is 6.9% overall. Okay, and now let us see some of the details which are highlighted in this article, that is regarding which sector are showing the positive growth in the import and which sector that is showing the negative growth. So the positive sectors includes pulses, gold, vegetable oil, chemicals, electronic goods, machine goods, pearls, precious and the semi-precious stones, fertilizers. So these are the showing some positive growth in the imports, and the negative growth in the silver, newsprint, transport equipment, cotton raw and cotton waste, coal, coke, etc. So these are the some important details which are given in this article. So one important thing that you should remember here is, it is talking about imports, it is talking about exports and trade deficit, and it is also comparing the data of December 2020 with the December 2019. Okay, so these are the things which are highlighted. Now let us try to understand and let us try to connect these dots and let us try to extract what is the meaning of this. So if you see the trade deficit, so first we need to know what is the trade balance. Okay, trade balance means whenever a country which is showing the difference between what it is earning from the exports and what it is paying for the imports. So whenever the export, what is the amount that is coming from the export is equal to what is the amount which is getting from the imports, then it is called as a trade balance. So why we are going with the trade with the other countries? So what is the need of exports and imports? If you are taking any country, so those countries which have resources, but resources are not equitably distributed throughout the world, right? So some areas they are rich in the oil resources, some areas they are rich in the iron ore, Some areas they are rich in the diamond and gold. So in this way we can say the resources which are present across the country, they are not equitably distributed throughout the world. So because of this, one country that need to depend on the another resources of the another country. So in this way there is a increase in the exports and the imports that happened in this globalized world. So whenever we are talking about this trade balance, so whenever this trade balance which is negative, that means imports are more compared to the exports. So what is the amount that should be paid to the imports is high than it is getting through the exports. So that condition it is called as a trade deficit. So whenever we are having the positive trade balance, that means the exports are more compared to the imports. So this condition it is called as a trade surplus. So what is the significance of the trade deficit? So trade deficit means we are importing more from the other countries and we are exporting less, correct? So what is the significance? The first important thing that you should understand here is the demand in the domestic economy which is not being met by domestic producers. That means let us take one country, and in that country there is a manufacturing company. For example, let us take the manufacturing company of textiles. So this textiles company which is producing, for example, 100 cloths per month. So if you see the population which is present in this country which is very high, and this 100 cloths which is not sufficient to the people who are present in this country. So here because of this country need to depend on the other country which is producing large amount of the clothes mainly to satisfy the needs of the people here. So because of this, we can say these domestic industries which are present, they are not efficient, they are not meeting the demands of the country. So this is the first significance. And the next one is there is lack of competitiveness of the domestic industries. Though here 100 cloths are produced by the industry in the country, but it is not meeting the good standards. The quality of this cloth is low, but the price is high. So whenever the same cloth materials which is coming from the other country which is having the good quality and the price is cheap compared to that of this domestic product, then the people will go and opt this products which are coming from the other country. So because of this, we can say there is a lack of competitiveness of the domestic industry. So this is the significance. So in this way you need to connect the dots. Okay. So this is the way of studying the current affairs. So these are some important things that you should remember regarding this article. Now let us see the next article. Title says experts suggest way to reduce hazards posed by birds to flight. So what happened? What is the background regarding this article? So what happened? There are aircrafts or aeroplanes, we can say airports are present. So nearby, if at all any birds are present, so the birds mainly cause the disturbances to the landing and as well as the taking off of the aeroplanes. So this article mainly suggests some measures that can be taken to reduce the hazards which are mainly posed by the birds to the flights. So this article will be important regarding environment and ecology, and this topic will be especially important regarding means. Now let us see this article in great detail. So this article mainly talking about ways to reduce hazards posed by birds. So if you see the context, it says that publication by Salim Ali Center for Ornithology and Natural History. It came up with a document. So the name of that document is Best Practices for Mitigation of Hazards posed by birds to aircraft. So this document mainly provides some ways to reduce the hazards which are posed by the birds. So the first one is we need to go for the habitat management of birds. So this habitat management, it should be location specific, and the aim of this habitat management that should reduce the attractiveness for the challenging bird species. We can go for the reducing of the availability of the food of these birds nearby airports. We should ensure that there is a reducing water availability near the airports, and we need to cover and also we need to roast the sites. So this is about habitat management of birds. And the next one is we need to prevent the breeding inside the airports. So in this way we can reduce the hazards which are mainly posed by the birds. And the next one is we need to go for the awareness creation to the public, and as well as we need to increase the people's participation to decrease the bird presence around the airports. And we need to discourage the people from dumping the waste near the airports and as well as airfields, because many birds which come to the dumping sites in search of food. So because of this, whenever we are decreasing or whenever we are discouraging the dumping of the waste in these airports, nearby airports and as well as airfields, we can decrease the presence of the birds in that area. And next one is, whenever there is any water flows like irrigation and the water stagnation, they should be prevented here. So whenever we are preventing this water presence around these airfields and airports, we can prevent the number of crows, pigeons and as well as waterfowls away in this area. And the next important measure we can take here is feeding of the birds by the people close to the airports. They can be discouraged and they can be stopped. And we need to go for the discouraging of the lapwing activity, such that we can go for the appropriate short gas cover in the airports and as well as in the airfields. They should be maintained in the preferably of 15 centimeters height. And the next one is, we need to discourage the slaughterhouse and as well as dumping of the slaughter waste very close to the airports, because whenever we are discouraging or we are decreasing the dumping of this slaughter waste in these areas, we can avoid the carnivorous birds like kites. So mainly to discourage the black kites, they are very sorcerous and they are posing a very danger to the landing and as well as the takeoff of the flights. So these airfields, they must clear of any animal or bird carcasses, because this animal and the bird carcasses, it is one of the important food source for these black kites. So whenever we are decreasing this, we can also decrease the number of the birds around these airports and the airfields. So these are some important measures mainly highlighted in this article. I hope it is clear. Now let us see the next article. Title says Iran plans to enrich uranium up to 20% purity, says IAEA. So this article will be very important regarding international relations. So this article will be important regarding prelims and as well as mains. Now let us see this article in great detail. We are going to see why it is in the news, some important details regarding the uranium enrichment, and we are also going to see what is this Iran nuclear deal and also what is this IAEA. So if you see the context, it says that Iran informed IAEA that it intends to produce uranium enriched to up to 20% purity. So the one important thing that you should remember here why Iran informed IAEA. So what is the role of IAEA regarding the uranium enrichment? So this is the first thing you should think. And the next one is, it says that beyond the 20% purity, that means it is going for the 20% purity. So it is saying that it is higher, right? So what is the actual limit? So this is the second important thing that you should remember. And the next important one is, what is the Vienna Accord which is said in this article. So you need to refer this Vienna Accord as well. So now let us see the context once again. It says that Iran informed IAEA that it intends to produce uranium enriched up to 20% purity, which is beyond the threshold limit set by 2015 Vienna Accord. Okay. So if you see regarding this IAEA, why Iran informed? This IAEA, it is the United Nations nuclear watchdog regarding the uranium. And the next one is, it is talking about 20% purity, but the threshold limit which is given by this Vienna Accord here is 3.67%. It also says that it should not be more than 4.5%. But now Iran informed that it will go for the uranium enrichment up to 20%. That means very high than compared to that of the threshold limit. And now if you see this 2015 Vienna Accord, it is also called as JCPOA or Iran Nuclear Program. So in 2015, Iran with the P5 powerful 5 countries plus 1, that is Germany. So let me know what are those P5 countries in the comment box. So Iran with the P5 plus 1 group, it agreed on a long-term deal on its nuclear program. So this deal, it is called as Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, that is JCPOA. So under this JCPOA, Iran mainly agreed to curb the nuclear activity, and in return it lifted the sanctions and as well as access to the global trade to the Iran. So Iran agreed for the nuclear activity, and these countries mainly they accepted for the lifting of the sanctions on the Iran and as well as the access to the global trade. So in this way, this agreement mainly allowed Iran to accumulate only small amounts of the uranium mainly used for the research, and it banned the enrichment of uranium for the reactor fuel and as well as the nuclear programs. So these are some important facts regarding this JCPOA. And now let us see what is this IAEA, that is International Atomic Energy Agency. That is International Atomic Energy Agency. So this agency is set up as a World's Atoms for Peace organization in the year 1957 in the UN. So it mainly reports to two important organizations of the United Nations, that is United Nations General Assembly and the United Nations Security Council. So to this UNGA, that is United Nations General Assembly and United Nations Security Council, so this IAEA will report, and headquarters of the IAEA located in the Vienna in Austria. And if you see the functions, there are two important functions of IAEA. The first one is it mainly works with the member states and as well as the member partners to promote safe, secure and peaceful use of nuclear technology. So this is the first important function. And the next one is to seek to promote the peaceful use of nuclear energy and to inhibit the use of nuclear energy regarding the military purpose and also nuclear weapons. So these are some important functions of IAEA. So these are the things that you should remember regarding this article. Now let us see the next article. Title says combating antimicrobial resistance. So this article mainly talking about antimicrobial resistance. So this is the one of the important problem that is facing by India. So this antimicrobial resistance will be very important under science and technology, which comes under GS paper 3, and this antimicrobial resistance, it is an important topic regarding mains point of view. Now let us see what are the details which are highlighted and as well as some facts regarding this antimicrobial resistance. So if you see recent study which published in the Nature, it discusses about a new class of compounds. These new class of the compounds mainly regarding the antibiotic. So the new class of antibiotic that kill the drug resistant bacteria. So because of this antimicrobial resistance is in the news. So this antibiotic will kill the drug resistant bacteria, and also it have the another advantage, that is it produces an immune response that combats this antimicrobial resistance. So these are the twin advantages of this new class of antibiotics. So in this context, in this study, researchers mainly focused on one important metabolic pathway, and this metabolic pathway is very essential for the bacteria, but the same metabolic process which is absent in the humans. So when we are blocking this metabolic pathway in the bacteria, then we can kill that resistant bacteria. Okay, so whenever we have the drug resistant bacteria, so whenever we are giving any drugs, what happens, it will be resistant to those drugs, it will be not killed. So because of this, what happened, we need to go for the new class of the antibiotics that is active or that is effective against this drug resistant bacteria. So in this study mainly said that the researchers mainly found one important unique metabolic pathway that is present only in this drug resistant bacteria, and this metabolic pathway which is mainly absent in the humans. So whenever we are blocking this metabolic pathway, then we can kill that bacteria. So this is about the study. And now let us see what is this antimicrobial resistance. So antimicrobial resistance, which is mainly acquired by any microorganism. For example, we can talk about the class of bacteria, class of virus, amoeba, fungi, parasite, etc. So they mainly develop resistance against the antibiotics, antifungals or antivirals, antihelminthics. So these are the class of the drugs mainly belongs to the antimicrobial drugs. So these drugs, they are used for the standard treatments. So whenever the resistance which is developed by the microorganisms against this antimicrobial drugs, so we can see the therapy will be ineffective, the treatment will be ineffective, and it will also see the infection which is persist in the patient, and it will also have the chances to spread to the others as well. So this is about, in brief, antimicrobial resistant. So what are the causes here? These causes will be very important regarding mains and prelims. The first one is antibiotic consumption in the humans. So irrational use of antibiotics. For even the cold, taking of antibiotic, even the doctors know that antibiotic will not be effective against virus, because common cold mainly caused by the virus, not by the bacteria. So in some cases, even for the cold, taking of the antibiotics, that means irrational use here. So because of this antibiotic consumption in the humans in the irrational way, that will lead to this antimicrobial resistance. And the next one is social factors. For example, because of whenever the people, they are going for the self medication, whenever they are having the access to the antibiotic without any prescription. So if you see, antibiotics, they belongs to H category drugs. So these H category drugs, they should be given only on the prescription. But even some medical shops, they are giving this antibiotic without prescription. So because of this, it is also leading to the increased antimicrobial resistance in India. And because of the some lack of knowledge regarding the antibiotics, so whenever the antibiotics are taken, they should be taken for the entire course, like 5 days or 7 days. If at all those antibiotics which are missed in the between, then the bacteria will have the ability to develop the resistance. So because of the lack of the knowledge regarding the how to use these antibiotics, so that is also leading to the increased cases of antimicrobial resistance. And the next one is cultural factors like the mass bathing in the rivers, lake, etc. that will spread this antimicrobial drug resistance. And the next one is pharmaceutical industry pollution. So whenever any pharmaceutical industry which is producing or which is manufacturing antibiotics, that is releasing the waste into the directly lakes or the rivers, that will contain the antibiotics. So the whatever the microorganisms which are present in that, they will be habituated with that microorganism, with that antibiotics which are present in that waste. So because of this, they led to the development of the superbugs. And the next one is environmental sanitation. Whenever we are releasing the waste, that is sewage waste, without any treatment, so if at all we have any antimicrobial bacteria that is present, then it will also spread that. So these are the some important causes. So now let us talk about what is the impact. So whenever we are increasing the antimicrobial resistance, whatever the therapies that are present, they will become ineffective, and the infection that will be persistent longer, and increases the hospital stay, increases the expenditure in the healthcare. So these are the some important impacts of this antimicrobial resistance. And now let us see the next article. Title says the first life forms. So this article mainly talking about the genetic material of first life forms. So this article will be again important regarding science and technology, which comes under GS paper 3. So I want to make a one important announcement. If you are weak in the science and technology and environment part in the current affairs, you need to compulsorily watch this Sunday's news analysis, because in the Sunday's newspaper, one entire section will be dedicated to science and technology in the page number 12. So this provides an immense knowledge regarding what is happening regarding the science and technology across the world. So this science and technology will be very important in the prelims, because you can get about 15 to 20 questions regarding the science and technology in your prelims. Mainly to clear your prelims, this science and technology part will be very important, and as well as environment also. So this Sunday's newspaper will be very important to gain the knowledge regarding science and technology. So one request from my side, please don't miss this Sunday session, okay? And now let's come back and let us see this article. So the context says, recently a study which is published in the Anganwate Chemic, it mainly says that chemists have come up with a new proposition regarding how life may have begun. So researchers mainly studied about the material, that is genetic material, and they come up with a new proposition that how the new life that started. So this researchers mainly showed that a simple compound, that is diamidophosphate. So this diamidophosphate which could have knitted together, and that formed the DNA in the primordial structures, that means the first form life forms. And in this first form of the life, there is a mixture of the DNA and RNA together. So this is the recent study which mainly talks about the genetic material of the primordial structures. And now let us see the next article. Woolly rhino from the ice age found in the Russia. So this article mainly talking about one important species, that is woolly rhinos. So this article will be very important regarding prelims, And one important thing that you should refer or that you should have to think here is regarding the permafrost. So what is this permafrost? So whenever you see the word permafrost in anywhere, so what that comes into your mind? So please pause the video for 1 minute and try to write 3 to 4 sentences regarding this permafrost in the comment box. So please try to habituate this thing, because it will be very helpful to improve your answer writing as well. So whenever anything which comes in the mains question paper that you don't know, then this habit mainly helps to think you about that, and you can write at least 3 to 4 sentences in the mains. So that will helps to gain half or 1.5 mark high. Okay, something is better than nothing, right? So please try to habituate this thing. And now let us see this article in great detail. So the context says that a well-preserved Ice Age woolly rhino with many of its internal organs still intact has been recovered from the permafrost. So this carcass of this woolly rhino mainly recovered from the Russia's extreme north. So this article mainly says that it is one of the best preserved specimens of Ice Age animal which found till date, and in this carcass they found that the soft tissue it is still intact, and they found the intestines, thick hair, and as well as a lump of fat that is present in that carcass. So if you see details here, in the recent years there are major discoveries regarding the mammoths, woolly rhinos, Ice Age foal, and cave lion cubs. They are mainly restored or they are mainly recovered from this permafrost. So because of the increase in the melting of this permafrost across the vast areas of the Siberia, so that led to the recovery of these extinct animals. If you see some facts regarding the woolly rhino, so it is a large, hairy, rhino-like mammal. So these woolly rhinos often lived a solitary lifestyle. So they mainly used their horns to dig for the plants and as well as roots, and they also used their horns to fight against the other species and also to defend themselves from the predators. And they have the long coats, and these long coats they protected from the freezing temperature of this ice age. And if you are talking about the status of this animal, they are extincted because they did not adapted to the climate change that happened. So because of this, it is one of the important example for the survival of the fittest. Okay, and now let us see the next article. Title says a new measure that can predict whether a city is prone to rain or tide based flooding. So this article it is very important regarding disaster management. So whenever you are writing any answer regarding the disaster management regarding the flooding, you can also add this article as a case study. So this article will be important regarding GS paper 3 under disaster management, and this will be very important regarding mains. You can add this article as a case study. If you see the context, it mainly says that the recent C40 cities report of 2018, which mainly notes that by 2050, over 570 low-lying coastal areas where they will face mainly flooding. So this flooding mainly because of increased sea level rise by at least 0.5 meters. Mainly this increase in the sea level of 0.5 meters that will put 800 million people at the risk from the impacts of the sea and as well as the storm surges. And if you are talking about inland areas, they can be affected by the floods because of the heavy rainfall. So because of this increase in the sea level rise, coastal areas they will be threatened by even tidal surges. So these are the some important things. And if you are talking about this study, that mainly talking about tide rainfall flood quotient. So what is this tide rainfall flood quotient? If you see the background, IIT Bombay devised a new metric or the measure to understand the coastal city it is more prone to floods either by the tidal events or by the extreme rainfall. So now let us see how it works. So in this measure, mainly they will use the past data regarding the rainfall, tidal data, topography of that region, and they can apply this framework mainly to pinpoint the major factors that may lead to the flooding in that particular area. And if you're talking about this study, they took about three different areas across the country. The first one is Maiti catchment, which is located in the Mumbai in Maharashtra, and next one is Jagatsinghpur district in the Odisha. Greater Chennai Corporation in the state of Tamil Nadu, and they applied the new method, and this new method helped them to classify the regions. So if you're talking about the first one, that is Maithi catchment. So in the Maithi catchment, the devastating impact of the storm's tide which is seen, and it is even reaching up to the 7 kilometers from the coastal boundary. So we can see the storm tide impact which is high in this Maithi region. And if you are talking about the second region, that is Jagat Singhpur, so this area will be affected by the flooding because of the high rainfall, and because of this high rainfall it will also inundate the several areas in the central region as well. And if you see the topography of this Jagat Singhpur, it is a flat terrain. So because of this flatness of the terrain, it will prevent the easy drainage of the flood water into the Bay of Bengal. Because of this, it will further increase flooding. If there is any slope is present, then the water will be easily moved towards down slope, right? So if at all there is any flat terrain, then the water movement will be decreased. So because of this, there is increase in the further flooding in that area. And if you are talking about third region, that is Chennai Corporation in Tamil Nadu, so it mainly affected by the storm tide in the eastern coastal region. But when we are comparing with the intensity regarding the Maithi catchment and this Chennai, it will be very, very low compared to that. So in this way, what is the significance of this study? So this significance will be important regarding mains. The first one is we can go for the better flood risk management. So whenever we are classifying the areas based on that, whether they are rain fed or whether they are the flooding which is caused by the storm or the tides, we can go for the long term planning in that area. And we can go for the building of the coastal defense structure. So those coastal defense structure that can be built in the storm dominated areas and as well as severe flood hazard areas. And we can go for the inland management, like we can go for the rainwater storage, lakes, detention basins, mainly to decrease the impact of the floods in the inland areas. And the next one is we can have the tide and the surge forecasting systems. So these tide and the surge forecasting systems, they should be equipped with the state-art ocean circulation models such that we can decrease the impact of the flooding. So this is the gist of this article. I hope it is clear. Now let us see the essay. Essay topic here is exploration is the engine that drives innovation. Innovation drives the economic growth. Try to write the essay within 750 words within 1.5 hours. Okay, these are some important articles that appear in the today's Hindu newspaper. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. The link of this notes will be given in the description box. Thank you so much.